Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today, me and my good friend Daniel are discussing a very widely loved train that truly left a mark on American railroading history that people don't really mention anymore. Let's talk about the EL's Phoebe Snow.
You heard the man, everyone. Now let's dive right in. What was the Phoebe Snow?
Imagine a famous railroad only known by its flagship train, like the Southern Pacific's Coast Daylight, Amtrak's California Zephyr, Great Northern's Empire Builder, and the New York Central's 20th Century Limited. You got that? Great. Now, there's a railroad just west of the New York Central's territory called the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western. It's around the 1900s, and they are in their absolute prime. They're still young, but they are growing quickly in every way. In terms of expansions, rolling stock, size, you name it. They're doing great. All of a sudden, the railroad came up with an idea of doing what no railroad has done before at the time. They decided to come up with a marketing plan involving a fictional character to symbolize the railroad.
Who is this fictional character, you ask? Well, her name was Phoebe Snow. Why'd they go for this name? They wanted to emphasize on how clean their locomotives were compared to its competitors. Snow White, clean services it offered thanks to using anthracite coal, one of their biggest moneymakers at the time.
The Lackawanna, while never one of the Northeast's largest, was perhaps the grandest. The DL&W's riches were attributed directly to the coal business. This was similar to the Norfolk and Western and the Chesapeake and Ohio, two highly successful roads that enjoyed plentiful profits through the movement of bituminous coal in the southern mountains of West Virginia. Bitumen is the liquid binder that holds asphalt together, another very important type of coal.
The Lackawanna's anthracite business allowed it to carry out impressive engineering improvements like the New Jersey cutoff from Port Morris to Scranton and Nicholson-Halstead cutoff during the early 20th century.
So returning to around 1900, the DL&W adopted the image of a nameless young woman traveler whose likeness appeared on the advertising cards, along with verses based on the nursery rhyme, The House That Jack Built. In the first such card, she found to her surprised delight, hard coal kept her dress still bright. Two later cards hinted that taking the Lackawanna was a great way for couples to meet. Ultimately, the railroad's maiden and some chap she encountered on a train fell in love and were married, because each looked so fresh and bright on the dustless road of anthracite. The marriage was soon forgotten, though. After that, Phoebe Snow was not much heard until around the World War II era. In between those 2 points existed the train's flagship Lackawanna Limited. The Lackawanna Limited was known for its fast time as well as the scenery of the route. It included a Pullman full vestibule parlor car, sleeping car, diner car, and coaches. Running during the daylight hours, scenery included the Delaware Water Gap, the Pocono Mountains, and the Susquehanna and Genesee River valleys. The fast train only stopped at principal cities. Unfortunately, though, on August 30th, 1943, the Lackawanna Limited wrecked in Wayland, New York, when it sideswiped a local freight that had not cleared the siding, killing 29 and injuring more than 100.
In 1945, the railroad's manager of public relations, J. Hampton Baumgartner, announced a full-fledged revival of the Phoebe image. The route of the Phoebe Snow slogan began showing up on boxcars and in ads. And then, on November 15, 1949, the wonderful train was re-inaugurated, running from Hoboken, New Jersey to Buffalo, New York via the Pocono Mountains. It was originally adorned in a stylish livery of maroon and gray with a bit of yellow stripes. The train was made to directly compete against the New York Central, Erie, and Lehigh Valley between Hoboken, New Jersey, and Buffalo.
Launched by DL&W President William White, the new Phoebe Snow represented the railroad's modernization of its passenger train fleet and image, as it became train number 3 going west and number 6 going east, which previously had been assigned to the railroad's former premier train, the Lackawanna Limited.
The Phoebe Snow came with a few coaches with reclining seats, room-matched double bedrooms, dining, a buffet, and a lounge car bringing up the rear. The personal service and charm of the Phoebe Snow, coupled with this brilliant marketing campaign of a fictional young lady dressed in white who welcomed you to ride the train, made the Phoebe Snow a down-to-earth, beloved operation. The railroad even brought the character to life by hiring an actress to portray Phoebe for promotional purposes.
The train ran on a daylight schedule between Hoboken and Buffalo, consisting of a single daily round trip, so that passengers can enjoy the very best of its gorgeous scenery over the viaducts and through the valleys, making a near 400-mile trip in around 8 hours. Going westbound after Buffalo, the sleepers and some coaches would continue on to Chicago, Illinois, over the nickel plate roads Nickel Plate Limited, and on return, would be transferred in Buffalo to train number 10, the New York Mail. The route followed the old DL&W main line to Buffalo, New York via the Pocono Mountains, with 20 stops total, terminals included. It started at Hoboken Terminal and stopped at the following: Newark's Broad Street Station, Brick Church in East Orange, Summit, Dover, Blairstown, East Stroudsburg, Cresco, Pocono Summit, Scranton, Binghamton, Endicott, Owego, Waverly, Elmira, Corning, Bath, Dansville, Mount Morris, and Buffalo. The total route length was 396 miles, covered in nearly 8 hours on a daily basis. Things were going great, but then there was the troubling merger.
The Erie and the DL&W, after fiercely competing against each other for years, finally agreed to merge on October 17, 1960. This posed some problems for the train. The section of the Phoebe Snow route between Binghamton and Corning, New York was in terrible condition, and all trains traveling between those points wound up being rerouted over the Erie main line. Between April 29th and July 1st, 1962, all passenger trains between Corning and Buffalo were rerouted off the DL&W main line over Dansville Hill to the former Erie main line via Hornell, New York, a route that was 4 miles longer than the old one and added an hour to the scheduled time. Hoboken Chicago trains 1 and 2 became the Erie Lackawanna Limited, which was combined east of Elmira, New York, with the Phoebe Snow, now numbers 31 and 32. The Phoebe was still a Hoboken to Buffalo train in name, but her feature cars, the Tavern Lounge Observations, were assigned to Hoboken to Binghamton, trains 2 and 43, then assigned to 1 and 2 between Hoboken and Salamanca, New York.
However, this discontinuance of the Phoebe Snow name would only last a couple years, as it was reinstated in late 1963, albeit now running all the way to Chicago via the old Erie double-track main line. The originator of the Phoebe Snow ordered the train reborn as train number 1, replacing the short-lived Erie Lackawanna Limited. White was looking for a way to boost both EL employee morale and to gain some positive publicity for the founding railroad. The move accomplished both. However, since a single Hoboken-Chicago routing was chosen, which bypassed Buffalo, the train was put into direct competition with the New York Central Railroad's passenger operation. In an earlier time, the new train might have flourished, but with the steady declining image of passenger rail travel in the US in general, and the competition from airlines in particular, it was doomed from the start, unfortunately.
In the late 50s and early 60s, railroads' passenger numbers slumped horribly due to the rise of air and road travel across the United States. People just weren't interested in trains anymore, as the new cars were proven faster and in some cases fancier. This caused multiple railroads across the country to struggle financially and discontinue some of its passenger operations. In the case of Erie Lackawanna, multiple of its commuter branch lines ended operations in the mid-60s due to the dwindling ridership numbers, like the Caldwell branch from Little Falls to Essex Falls.
As the decades slowly went past, things quickly got worse. Ridership continued to fall rapidly. In early 1966, EL looked to discontinue the Phoebe and the local commuter trains on the former Erie that met her at Binghamton. An ICC examiner held hearings in several cities and heard a lot of protests. For Scranton and such stops in upstate New York as Binghamton and Elmira, Phoebe was the last day train. Unfortunately, on November 27, 1966, the ICC approved of the Erie Lackawanna to finally discontinue the Phoebe Snow for good. The connecting locals, 21 and 22, offered the last service on the old Erie for stations between Binghamton and Port Jervis. Known to employees as the Toonerville Trolley, they often ran with only a coach and a baggage car.
The EL actually held on to passengers one last train, the Lake Cities from Hoboken to Chicago. The Lake Cities wasn't discontinued until January of 1970, about 16 months before Amtrak was inaugurated. When Amtrak was inaugurated in May of 1971, their main purpose was to take over the passenger operations of struggling railroads that fell victim to the competition of cars and planes. Amtrak might have taken over the Hoboken to Chicago operation, but observers speculated that the EL wanted to rid itself of its passenger trains before that could happen.
On November 13, 1979, 3 years after Conrail assumed operation of the former EL commuter lines, Amtrak operated an inspection train over the former route of the Phoebe Snow between Hoboken and Scranton to determine the feasibility of restoring rail service between the two cities, and to try and prevent the abandonment of the Lackawanna cutoff. Dubbed the Pocono Day Express, it was the last passenger train to run over the route of the Phoebe Snow in the 20th century.
Amtrak was facing budget cuts that threatened numerous routes across the country at that time, however. The addition of a new route, one which had not seen a passenger train in nearly a decade, was a low priority. They really thought of it, but they eventually said no for now.
Today, only 5 of the 20 stations along the old route are still widely active, all of which have hourly or better service all day, every day. And me and Daniel are going to show you how they've changed ever since the Snow left the terminal for the last time, nearly 60 years ago.
So, a lot has changed since the 60s, Daniel.
What? It has?
Yeah, it has. So the Phoebe Snow used to depart on track 17, but right now we're on track 7, and the track 7 is one of the revenue commuter train tracks. And we're about to get on commuter train to Dover, which is also one of the stops it made around an hour and a half into the journey. New Jersey Transit took over operations in 1984, and before that, I think Conrail had operations, right?
After 1976, until New Jersey Transit Takeover, that was on Conrail. But the Phoebe Snow, I believe, ended before the Conrail ended.
Oh yeah, but don't forget, in 1979, Amtrak did have that one inspection train that went over the Lackawanna cutoff from Hoboken. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much how Hoboken changed over the past 60 years. Next stop will be Brick Church. So here I am at Newark Broad Street. This is the second station that's still active that was formerly served by the Phoebe Snow. Behind me is train 855 to Lake Apacong, and it's widely still active today. There's a train every 10 minutes on weekdays and about every 30 minutes on weekends. In 2006, they installed the Newark Light Rail Broad Street extension, and that still serves to this day about every 20-30 minutes, along with various bus connections to New York and suburbs around. So, the station house is still lovely preserved. It's still used as a station house, surprisingly. And other than that, Newark Broad Street is a relatively nice station. It's accessible, that's it. Now I'm at Brick Church Station. This is the third stop that's still active in New Jersey that used to formerly be served by the Phoebe Snow. It looks very dilapidated as of right now, but the station house was at least kept up nicely. Trains still come here every couple minutes on weekdays and every hour on weekends. The station is now accessible. There is a mini high accessible platform for disabled people at the end of the platform. Brick Church is situated in East Orange still. It hasn't really been touched.
Attention, Brick Church customers. The 5:10 p.m. eastbound train to Hoboken is now operating 6 minutes late.
And you heard that. They have announcements now, as do most of the New Jersey Transit stations. Brick Church has been largely untouched ever since the 60s. More trains stop here, definitely. That's pretty much it.
This is Summit, which in regards to our train stands the fourth stop on the Phoebe Snow, as well as the second to last stop that is still opened. Today, the station receives service from NJ Transit rail operations, standing as an important stop in the Morrison Essex with regular service to New York, Hoboken, Dover, Hackettstown, and Gladstone.
Alright, anyway, this is Dover Station. This is the last active station on the former Phoebe Snow route. And it also changed a lot ever since 1966. So ever since it left, a new high-level island platform has been installed to comply with the ADA of 1990. It's now only 2 tracks instead of 4. And now trains come here every hour to serve commuters to Hoboken, Lake Hopatcong, Hackettstown, and New York. It only sees a couple thousand riders a day, but I say that's still good, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's not the hourly service. It depends on the time in the day, but it can see up to trains every 10-15 minutes at times. There's action to service, I should say, to Hoboken, to New York, to Hackettstown, Port Morris, tons of stuff.
Alright, now, he's going to talk about the future of the Phoebe Snow route.
In recent news, however, Amtrak has been working on restoring a train along the former Phoebe route up to Scranton with the Lackawanna cutoff via the New Jersey Transit Morristown line. They want to also introduce commuter service up that same route to Scranton. They said they want to have a train running by 2029, but I think that's far too early considering the last update we got was the Roseville Tunnel located in Braham, New Jersey. They're optimistic, yes, but they're going to need a lot more time.
The Phoebe Snow was truly a magnificent train, but it unfortunately fell victim to the competition of the car and plane, proving to be more efficient and safer than a train in most cases. Fortunately, a small portion of its scenic route is still widely used by commuter trains on NJ Transit every single day. It's truly upsetting that such a wonderful train will never see how much the railroads in New Jersey evolved after its last departure. Anyway, this was the story of the Phoebe Snow, the Lackawanna's finest train. I hope you enjoyed this huge video. It was a lot of work putting this together. Major shout out to my friend Daniel for being a massive help. You can check out his channel in the pinned comment. He posts some pretty solid stuff. Anyway, that's all from us. Thanks for watching and have a good day.